Hey, happy Monday, y'all. Welcome to another episode of FPP Live, a time we connect every Monday live at 7 p.m. EST to begin to look at how the three things that you need to live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be, how those three things intersect, which are faith, purpose, and profit. And yes, you do need all three if you're going to go after all that God has for you, why you were created and crafted and why you're here. And I can go on and on. But listen, I'm always excited to come here to give you actionable insight. So as you come in, whether you're here live or you come back and watch the replay, tell me hello and tell me where you are in the world. Those of you that join me live, you'll see me look to the side. That means I'm looking at your comments. All right. So if you have questions, you have thoughts, please, by all means, I'm not here from me. Want to hear from you. So, this is our final part in a series I started some weeks ago. The series is called The Kingdom Principle Needed to Build a Successful Business. And so, after all, don't we build businesses to be success, to be a success, right? But I think so many of us don't stop long enough to realize the principles, the strategy, the insight that we need so that we can be the success that God created us to be, you and me. Why? Because there's people attached to your success. There are people that need you. And every day you hold up on being the successful business owner that you were born to be, you're late for work. Mhm. God is like looking for you and asking when you're going to clock in for work. So, with that said, I'm going to review a little bit, but I'm kind of going to review as I talk about what our conversation is for today. Okay. So, our conversation today, if I can get it out, is the equation that guarantees that success, the equation that guarantees business success. Okay. So, the principle needed, and by the way, if you've missed any of these as I begin to kind of review, and I'm going to review as I walk through the steps, go over to my Facebook, my YouTube channel. You're in my Facebook if you're here live. My YouTube channel is nrjnetwork.com. So again, if you've missed any of the episodes, this is the fifth and final step in the series that I've been doing. I'm starting a new series next week. I'll tell you about that at the end. Okay, so go over to my YouTube channel, nrjnetwork.com. You see FPP Live, and then you can go. The first one is called The Kingdom Principle Needed to Build a Successful Business, and then you can watch the previous four. I'll do a quick review, but not go into the deep. And listen, you guys know, those of you that are here with me week after week, hey, Yolanda, I see you. You know that I build on one, builds on the next, the way I always teach. And that's for a couple reasons. Number one, God was a God of strategy. You don't believe me? Go read Genesis, because God could have created the world in a blink of an eye. But he decided to strategically do it day by day. And you think you can build your business overnight? Yeah, that's not real. Second, is because there's so much insight that I give you each week. This, if I taught everything all at once, we'd be on here for 2 or 3 hours, and ain't nobody got time for that in the evening after you've worked all day. All right. So here's the principle again: has been seed time and harvest, and here's our foundational Bible verse for this entire series has been Genesis 8:22. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, day and night shall not cease. Now, again, I've said this each episode. I'm going to say it again here. Seed time shouldn't be one word. It should be two: seed, time, harvest. So I'll come back to that. But keep that in mind as I walk you through what we've been talking about each episode. Now, this our fifth and final episode. Our conversation here again is the equation that guarantees business success. Now, you know what's interesting is many of us define ourselves as rational. And so we think through things and we try to be calculated and make great plans. But there's an area that we overlook. That's in our blind spots that mess up those plans. Those of you that have heard my story, I'm not going to tell it here. Maybe I'll tell it next week. You know that I failed for 17 years in my business. This was one of the biggest reasons I failed. And can I tell you what it is? Here's the equation. And I'll explain it in a second. Let me pull it up here on our. Now, if you've been around me, you know that I've talked about this equation: E plus R equals O. That's not the equation for today. So emotions plus response equals your outcome. Many of us don't realize that our emotions are at play when we're making decisions. Fear, emotion; anxious, emotion; and go on and on. And so we've got to stop And really, this is what emotional intelligence is all about, right? And really, it says emotional intelligence is one of the strongest predictors of business success. Research says that. Okay. So you have to really regulate your emotions and check in on your impulses because a fear impulse will make you automatically run. So, what's the equation for our conversation here? It's the same thing: emotion plus response equals harvest. Because if your emotion, your fear says, don't do it, or I don't have enough money, or all the excuses you will make and tell God why you can't start now, why you can't do your business now, why now is not a good time for you, He knows what's on your plate just like you do. And the nerve of us to say what we can't do. But that's emotion. And our emotions definitely end up adding or not even adding. Our emotions dictate our response most times. Our lives are dictated by the choices we make. The choices we make sometimes can be from a negative emotional place. It can also be from an exciting emotional place. Like, when God drops something in your spirit and you're meant to do it, like God gave me the vision for what I'm doing right now in 1993, and I'm just beginning to see the harvest. I'm going to be honest. How many years ago was that? 30. Had my emotions said quit, because they did a couple times, let me keep it all the way real, because it's taken a long time. But I also see how God is using everything to grow me. Seed time. I've had some great harvests come in that time, but I need you to understand emotion will say, or flesh will say, or the world will say. And if we let those things dictate our response, we will never get to our harvest. So, our conversation today, I'm going to do a review, but I really want you to check in with you and look at where you are and how you're making choices about your business. This is for you, yes, whether you've been in business for years or you're just starting out. Because listen, when God gives you a vision that's bigger than where you are, it's going to be scary. If it's something you've never done before, then it means you need, if you're going to do something different, you need different tools to be able to do it. So the first step we talked about week 1 was 10% more rule, the 10% more rule. And this is about sowing the seed. Galatians 6:7 says, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap." So God is always looking at, what are you doing with the seed that was already placed in you at birth? Are you sowing into that seed? There's a difference between being a sower and just sowing. See, I want to be a sower. I want to always be sowing, not just into my seeds, but into my client seeds, into my husband's seeds, into my bonus kid seeds. I'm always sowing. And I need you to understand the difference, because it's not a one time thing. You could be a sower one time and be done, or you could sow one time and be done. But if you're a sower, you're ongoing sowing. What I've realized in my own journey as a CEO for 30 years, God, when I say that, I'm like, how old are you, Nicole? God, 30 years. But anyway, when I look at my own journey as a CEO, I start to think of the fact that sowing has been an evident part of every step that God has taken me through in my own matriculation of my purpose, my gift, my brilliance. So, step one is God is looking at, what will you do with what He's given to you? You guys have heard me talk about some of my favorite parables. I love that Jesus is a storyteller, because listen, speaking is a powerful tool. Talk to you about that in a few minutes. So, parables are stories. One of the best ones here is the parable of the talents, which is in Matthew, I think it's chapter 24. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. It's either 24 or 25. Let me see if I can look it up real quick. I'm pretty sure it's Matthew 24. You can tell when I don't know that I'm going to talk about stuff because I don't have it written down. Matthew 24. Let me see. Hold on, y'all. Starting at verse, is it 19? Okay, so it's not 24. It must be 25. Hold on. Somebody look. Somebody that's with me may know. May know, may know. Hold on. Matthew 25. Yep, it's 25, y'all, starting at verse 14. The parable of the talents, Matthew 25:14. Okay. So God is looking for, what will you do with what He's given you? That was step one. Step two is really the truth about growing past your potential. Your seed is a potential. It has all kind of potential in it. It's not going to grow just because it's there. Many times I've been on lives like this, and people have told me they've been praying to God, and you guys know I'm a God's girl, and sometimes it bothers me when people. Matter of fact, let me keep it all the way real. Maybe about 5 years ago, a woman, I was making invitations like I am now for you to join me for my 2-day intensive, And I'll tell you about that in a few minutes as well. And thank you, Letitia. And listen, it bothered me that this woman kept saying she wanted to pray about it. And I'm like, well, so then I prayed about the fact that it bothered me. And when I prayed about it, God said to me, she's waiting on me, and I am waiting on her. Faith without works is dead. So it's one thing for you to have potential. It's another thing for you to go past your potential. So this is about you getting aggressive with reaping your harvest. It's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes, no matter what. This is why I love David and Goliath and David's story. 12-year-old David fought Goliath. No matter what, I'm going to save all these people behind me, all my tribe, all my community. You think he wasn't scared? But he realized what his ability to stand in front of that giant boldly would do for his community, his family, his village. I wonder if you realize that you being afraid or all the excuses you make, you're making you do your business about you when it ain't about you. It's about all the people that need you. hmm right? So a common misconception is that you got to wait on God, and that's not real. When you take one step, I've seen every one step I take, God takes four. So even though it's been a 30-year journey for me, if you knew where I started and if you saw all the ways God has been matriculating my gift, I can see God's handiwork all in my own business because I've stayed diligent, because I've been aggressive with getting to the harvest that God placed in me when he gave me the vision he gave me. Just like I know God gave you one or you wouldn't be here, right? There's a Bible verse that talks about God gives the increase, but we are to reap or gather the harvest. And I forgot to look up this Bible verse, but God gives the increase. It's God that gives the increase. I'll look it up and type it in the comments. Okay. So listen, next was a bridge. So step one was 10% more. Step two was a truth about growing past your potential. Again, if you've missed these episodes, y'all, because I'm not going in detail, but I'm giving you quick pieces to it so you understand where I'm getting ready to take you for this last, for the equation. Okay. Then we did a bridge, y'all. Every great song has a great bridge. So the bridge was the power of one. Many of you are jack of all trades, which means you're master of none. So this is all about your focus and staying true to the one thing. Unfortunately, so many of you do not even know what your one thing is. Galatians 6:9 says, so let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessings if we do not give up. So then last week, I talked about step number 3, which is your business firmly planted? Looking at the soil, the environment your business sits in, the people, the places, the things that are around you, and even how you're nurturing that seed. How are you watering that seed? What programs, what coaches are you hiring? What fertilizer are you putting in that seed? You've got to be clear on if your business is firmly planted and what it needs, which leads us to today, which is number 4, the equation that guarantees business success. Okay. So again, let me put it back up here. Emotion plus response equals harvest. So step number 1 is don't make emotional decisions. You've got to stop and really know or assess what season you're in. So remember I said seed, time, harvest. So God will plant a seed. Okay, that seed might be an idea to start a business. That seed is your purpose in you. If I'm honest with you, I'm working on something new in my business. Or okay, let me say this because the new thing I can't say yet because I'm in the middle of doing it. So one of the things God placed in my spirit in 2019 was that He wanted me to go in corporate more. And then COVID happened. When God put that in my spirit, and everybody has a different relationship. So some people God says audible words to, God drops ideas in some people. Everybody has a different way that they hear from God. Okay, depending on your relationship. So when God dropped in my spirit, I need you in every pretty much. He told me I want you in working with entrepreneurs and corporate and government everywhere, in Hollywood everywhere. So what's interesting is God dropped that, and this always happens. Then my pastor then said, God wants you to. I was like, I already know, Pastor. And the reason I stopped is because then gives me more pressure to have to do it. That was a seed that got planted. Time was me really working on getting in these new arenas. Do you know I'm just starting to see the doors open now? Need you to get that. But had I given up, even if you look at people like Tyler Perry, who produces play over and over, you guys have heard me use this example, and I try to use examples everybody knows. Had he given up, he would not be where he is right now. Seed time before the harvest. Okay. So you've got to not make emotional decisions, but instead be clear on where you are in your journey. What season are you in? Is it seed time? Like maybe God gave you a new idea. So then you need to put the time in. What does that time look like? What do you need? And I need you to not think too highly of yourself. Mhm. So, which is step number two, which is why I'm looking down, which is plan according to the harvest you want to reap. Okay, now I need you to get this. Many of you don't stop long enough to be clear on where you have holes. Let me say it like that. I don't want to say you're in deficit, but you're in deficit. Some of you have started businesses and your revenue isn't growing because you haven't stopped long enough to get clear on your niche, your lane, the one arena God has created you to dwell in. And because it's vague, nothing you do is working. Or it works for a while, but it doesn't stick because you're not clear on your niche. You know, what's interesting is the number of clients that come to me that say things to me like, oh, I need more marketing. Oh, I just need to build my tribe. Oh, I just need to sell my books. Or, oh, I just need sales strategy. And really, you have no niche. When I start talking to you and asking you questions, you have no lane that you're dominating in. So you've got to really start to understand where you are and then plan according to where you are. So it's not about you doing what you see the so and so doing on Facebook because she's doing great and she has all this following, or he. It's about you being clear on what you need. This is why, listen, it's important to get a coach. Listen, I'm working on corporate and I have a corporate coach. Why? Because I can't coach myself. But one session with my coach, she said one thing that I was overlooking in my blind spots. When she said it, I was like, oh my God, duh. So you've got to be clear. That clarity makes a difference. So, again, number one, don't make emotional decisions. Know what season you're in. Be clear on where you are. Be clear on what you need and where you are. Number two, plant according to the harvest you want to reap. If I go back, when you're clear on where you are, then plan according to where you are and what you need from where you are. And you've got to have an honest conversation with yourself about that. I said this Bible verse, I think last week, Romans 12:3. I might have said it in Bankroll Your Brain Summit. For I say, through the grace given to me, to everyone who is among you, not to think of himself or herself more highly than she ought to, but to think soberly, as God has dealt to each one a measure of faith. Don't think yourself too highly. The reason my business fell for 17 years is because I kept saying to myself, I am an adjunct professor, kind of was feeling myself, and I should know how to do this, but I didn't. So when you get clear about where you have deficits, and I'm going to tell you, it will take you working with the coach to do that. Some of you know that I'm your coach. And so I'm going to stop and play a quick commercial. You know that I am right now in open enrollment in my BYB 2-day intensive coming up September 29th and 30th here in Washington, D.C. So I'm going to play a quick commercial and then come back to walk through step 3 and 4. I'll be back after this.
Well, Nicole's a great teacher, and she has a way of connecting with people and keeping things in layman's terms. So even if she's talking about something that you don't understand, she explains it in a way that where you get it. And so that's been really, really helpful. I've gone through a lot of coaching programs before trying to launch my business, and I have to say this is one of the few, or one of the first, that I actually see the strategy. I can actually get to the end goal without getting it to overwhelm. Like, she breaks it down in such a way that they're like bite-sized pieces, and she uses really great analogies so that even if you don't understand how your path is lined up, when she likens it to something else that you can relate to, it's like, oh, okay, I can see how I can get to the next step.
I love how my videos just stop on their own. That's not me doing that. I don't know why it does that. But anyway, so learn more about the BYBintensive.com. Only 30 women in the room in a mansion that we are renting out for you chef curating all your meals, and a workbook where we do the work. So this is not a event where there's a bunch of speakers that speaking at you. It's me and you doing the work. Okay. And why am I sharing that with you? Because many of you, the reason your harvest hasn't grown or you haven't started is because you have blind spots. You need somebody to help you see in those blind spots. And that's exactly what we're going to do at the BYB Intensive. Many of you need to understand what your niche is. So those of you that need to get clear on that, you should be in VIP. VIP is where you get the Brains Accelerator to start the work now, and then we'll have a group coaching call before the Bankroll Your Brains Intensive. So you'll do the 5-part series, you'll take an assessment, it'll tell you how you're wired, you'll do the work to get clear on your niche, the people that need you, the way to position yourself, your brilliance, in a way that makes you stand out from the sea of people that do what you do. And then we'll get in the room and do the work even deeper in those 2 days. Okay. So let's finish our conversation here and really the equation you need, which one more time, I'm going to put it up. The equation that you need is E plus R equals H. Emotion plus response equals your harvest. That's how you get to your harvest. The steps you need to take to get to your harvest are: 1, don't make emotional decisions. Get clear on where you are. Know what season you're in. And 2, plan according to the harvest. So plan according to that season. And what do you need to get to the harvest from that season to the harvest? Then step number 3 is sow multiple crops. Now, you know me, I'm always talking about multiple streams of income. What most billionaires don't tell you is they have multiple streams of income. Listen, Ecclesiastes 11:6 says this: in the morning, sow your seed, and in the evening, do not withhold your hand, for you do not know which will prosper, either this or that, what or whether both alike will be good. What does that mean? See, when you have multiple streams of income, there'll be times that one program, so I have 6 streams of income in my business. My main stream is my signature group coaching program. There are times that that stream is going great. My next stream is my BYB intensive. There are times that's going great. But then I have corporate programs, I have speaking. I can go on and on. By the way, a book is not a revenue stream, y'all. So many of you guys think a book is a revenue stream. Unless you get a 6-figure deal to write your book, yeah, your book is not a revenue stream. hmm How do I know? My first book was published by a publisher. I didn't get a 6-figure deal, but I was so excited that a publisher offered to publish my book. When that publisher told me I was a best-selling author in their publishing house, I thought, yes, I'm about to quit my job. I'm about to get this big check. Yeah, that check was $300 for a quarter. For a quarter. So even if I made $300 for 4 quarters, which makes up a year, that's $1,200, y'all. Yeah, I can't eat on that. Yeah. So book is not a revenue stream. Book is a marketing tool. We'll talk more about that at Bankroll Your Brains Intensive. So you've got to really understand in what way people need you in order to create those revenue streams. It's not just creating programs because you know you need to have multiple. And it's not about having multiple businesses because then your attention is diverted. You've got to have one brand conversation. And from that one brand conversation, it's having a menu. It's like going to a restaurant. And I don't know about you guys, but if I was in a Chinese restaurant and I wanted Chinese food and then I saw they had barbecue. Now, unless it was Chinese barbecue or Korean barbecue or something. But then if they had soul food, I'd be like, wait a minute. Like I remember being from LA, this is a real talk, that you go to a Chinese food restaurant and they'd be selling donuts. What does a donut have to do with Chinese food? I don't understand. So many of you, that's what you're doing. You have too many conversations happening and your ideal client is confused. Keep in mind, a confused mind doesn't buy. So you've got to have one brand conversation and have what I call a menu of giving. It's a client journey. And as your clients go through a journey, they find where they need to stop. Well, I can go on and on about that. Fourth and final step to the equation is reaping the harvest requires persistence and determination. Proverbs 10:5 says this: he who gathers in summer is a wise son. He who sleeps in harvest is a son who causes shame. Now remember our Bible verse when I started: while the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, day and night. So there'll be times in your business where you feel like it's winter and times where you feel like it's summer. Summer is the harvest, y'all. Winter is the seed and the time. And just like the world goes through seed time and harvest, So do all of us in our business with our purpose. You got to get clear on where are you and what do you need so that when the harvest comes, you've done the work in your seed time that you have a harvest. And so I really want to encourage you to take some time to really assess where you are. Get clear on what you need. And if you don't know how to assess where you are, that's where you need to get your butt in the seat at the BYB intensive. Because I will give you the tools. I will walk you through how to get clear on where you are so that you can begin to do the work in the room. All right. So that's it for our series. So you guys know me well enough to know that I want to know what insight, what takeaways have you gotten from this excuse me, actually it's a 5-part series. Again, if you miss any of the episodes, go watch it on my YouTube channel at nrjnetwork.com. Now, listen, I've been thinking of you and reading your questions, and you guys have been asking questions in relation to the BYB intensive. So, because of that, I'm doing something, taking it off the shelf. If you've been around me, you know that during COVID, I was doing something called the Brilliant School. So next week, FPP Live will have a Brilliant School takeover. So I'm not going to be able to dig as deep as I did when I did the Brilliant School, but I'm going to walk you through these 5 steps because these are the questions many of you guys are asking me. Dominating your lane. Why is that so doggone important? Why is having a niche is so important? Why is that what's going to make a difference for you in your business? The power of your story. Why do you need to even tell your story? Why? Why is that the number one marketing tool that will pull people to you? Your brain's blueprint. Why is a methodology needed? And then from it, why do I need to find my flow? And then why is money making methodology? Why is that all important for you to have a successful business? Oh, we're going to dig into this over the next 5 weeks. So I'm going to encourage you to come live so you can ask me questions live. As you see, I'm looking over here. I see you, Cynthia. Hey, right? So you can ask me questions live. All right. So again, Brilliant School Takeover starting next week over the next 5 Tuesdays, God willing, if I don't end up having to travel. Well, I'm traveling tomorrow, but if I don't end up, so, listen, all these speaking gigs have been coming in so fast and furious. Not complaining, but hopefully, even if I'm not here, I'll record it if I can't be here live. All right. So with that, it's always my honor to be here with you every Monday, 7 p.m. EST. Next Monday, our next series is the Brilliant School Takeover here at FPP Live. Don't miss it. Tell a friend. All they got to do is join our Facebook group, and I might give you a handout or two each week. See how I feel. So with that said, y'all, I look forward to pouring more into you. If you know, like you know, it's time to grow your business, then I want to encourage you while we still have $100 off to get your butt in a seat at the BYB intensive. It's in Washington, D.C. All you got to do is come here. You can come empty. I'm coming full to pour everything I have in you. Go to the page and listen. If you have questions, bring your questions over and ask me so I can answer your questions. Because if you know, like you know, now is your time. I want you to be clear on your yes. Okay. So, with that said, y'all, again, it's always my honor, my privilege to coach you, to teach you, to pour into you live on Monday nights. Please share with me the one takeaway you've gotten out of this series that I've been doing over the last 5 weeks, and then get ready for the Brilliant School Takeover next week. All right. Have a good rest of your day. I'll see y'all soon.